So we begin to see our push button starts coming into our vehicles. Now some vehicles has had this longer than others. For example, motorcycles have had push starts for a really long time. Cars, relatively long time now, at least 10 years, and trucks, we're just starting to see trucks coming through now. That's just a general idea. It's not a hard and fast rule, and obviously there's been different manufacturers doing things at different times. Now this push button start has a problem. If you were to just rely on a push button start, i.e. you get into your vehicle and you push it and the engine starts and you can drive away, then there's no security. We need to have some form of security, and that's what the key gives us. So you did see on some of the earlier ones where you had a key to go into an ignition, but you had a push button start because that was the security part of the system. But somehow we needed to move past that because it seems daft that we have a key which we could just turn, and at the same time you then take your hand off and push the button. So we have to move forward from there. So you can see where we've got our vehicle control units, the vehicle control unit that has our ignition key on it, and we have the engine control unit. So we'll add a couple more control units. Now you can see coming in we have our security control unit with an RF or a radio frequency receiver, and we also have a transmission control unit. Now you can notice as well that the CANBUS is now starting to get busy. We're starting to throw out more messages and more signals out onto the CANBUS, and the CANBUS has a way of dealing with this. It's able to prioritize which ECUs are allowed to talk and which ones are allowed to communicate and who's more important than the other. So one can override the other. Now, just to run through how a push button start operates with a vehicle on a CANBUS type system, we have our security control unit. So up here with our security control unit, you walk up and you have a key in your pocket. Now you may push that key, or the security control unit, it may pick up the fact that you have a key in your pocket. Either way, when it gets that signal, the security control unit will disable the alarm, it will allow you to unlock the doors, and it will disable the immobilizing system. Now that's really important because you do not want somebody driving away with your vehicle, and that's what's taken over from our keys. So the driver gets into the car, and you'll notice down onto the vehicle control unit now, we've now lost that ignition switch and it's turned into a push start. So once the driver gets in and comfy, ready to drive, they push the switch, and again it's a manual sensor, so we've got a small amount of current that will come through this switch. Once the driver pushes it, the contacts are made and the control unit receives a signal to say the driver wants to start. It then pushes that message out onto the CANBUS, which is received by the engine control unit. The engine control unit will then decide, well, can I start or can't I start? So before actually operating that relay, it puts out a message. The message would be talking to the security control unit saying, are we okay to go? Is the immobilizer okay? Has it been disengaged? Has the security been disengaged, etc., etc.? And it will put a message back to say, yes, it's all good. It will then also communicate to the transmission control system or the emission control unit. Now, depending on whether you've got a manual or an automatic, for the manual, it might say that the vehicle is in neutral so that you know it's out of gear. Or if it's an auto, the same thing, it will have a neutral or park, so it will know if it's in neutral or park. It will then put a signal back via the CANBUS to say to the control unit, yes, you can start, or no, you can't, I'm in gear. If everything's okay, the engine control unit will then put a small amount of current down to the relay. It will energize, and then again, the vehicle will start. Power is allowed to go down to the ignition switch terminal, and then the starter motor operates as we've previously discussed. So you can see that we're starting to get a bit more complex in our systems. It's not as straightforward as it was before, And we're also having to, just thinking about this bit here, we also need to be aware that if we have a vehicle with a non-start, that non-start may not be because of the starter motor. It could be because of the transmission, it could be because of the security control unit, it could be because of the vehicle control unit. So that we're starting to get a few different things coming into play, which means a non-starting vehicle may not be because of the actual starting system components.